Long after the ruins were cleared and the borders redrawn, World War II continued to live quietly inside people. It lived in habits, first. In the way survivors saved scraps of food even when shelves were full. In the way lights were turned off quickly at night. In the way sudden noises froze entire rooms. The war had trained humanity to expect disaster, and that instinct did not disappear with peace treaties. Children born after 1945 inherited these habits without understanding them. They grew up in rebuilt cities that looked modern and confident, yet their parents spoke cautiously about the future. Prosperity returned in parts of the world, but beneath it lay an unspoken rule. Nothing is permanent. The war had proven how fast order could collapse. In Europe, nations that had once tried to destroy each other now stood side by side, pretending cooperation came naturally. Old enemies shared tables, signed agreements, smiled for cameras. But memory sat between them like uninvited guests. Forgiveness was discussed publicly. Suspicion remained privately. Germany rebuilt itself with discipline and silence. There were no grand speeches about pride, no celebration of the past. Streets were clean, factories efficient, schools focused on the future. But the past was not buried, was studied, dissected, and carried like a warning. Guilt became part of national identity. Memory became duty. Some believed this was weakness. Others understood it was survival. In Eastern Europe, memory was controlled. Official stories replaced personal ones. Liberation was praised, but occupation was never mentioned. Heroes were selected. Crimes were forgotten by command. People learned which memories were safe and which were dangerous. Silence became a second language. Fear, once learned, is hard to unlearn. Across the Atlantic, the United States experienced a different echo. Victory had elevated it to global leadership, but leadership came with anxiety. The same nation that had ended the war now feared the power it possessed. Nuclear weapons turned strategy into mathematics and morality into theory. Children practiced drills for a war that had not yet started. Sirens replaced lullabies. Hope was taught alongside fear. The Soviet Union carried its own scars. Entire cities had been erased. Millions had died. Victory was celebrated loudly, but mourning happened quietly. Strength became obsession. Security became justification. The memory of invasion shaped every decision. Never again became not a promise, but a command. The war also changed how humanity understood evil. Before World War II, evil was imagined as something obvious: monsters, villains, madness. Afterward, it looked disturbingly ordinary. Men in offices. Stamps on paper. Orders followed without question. The realization was terrifying. The greatest crimes in history had been committed not only by fanatics, but by people doing their jobs. This understanding unsettled the world. It meant morality could not be outsourced. It meant obedience was not innocence. It meant everyone was responsible. Survivors tried to explain this, but explanation failed, where experience was missing. As years passed, first-hand witnesses grew older. Their voices weakened. Their stories competed with entertainment, politics, and convenience. Memory began to fade not suddenly, but gently. Museums were built, memorials raised, anniversaries observed. Yet remembrance slowly shifted from lived experience to ritual, from pain to symbolism, from warning to history. And history, when it feels distant, loses urgency. In Asia, the war's legacy was equally complex. Japan rebuilt with speed and silence, focusing on technology and growth. The past was present but uncomfortable. Some stories were emphasized, others avoided. Victims remembered, neighbors remembered differently. Memory does not always agree. The war had reshaped global power, but it had also reshaped human relationships. Trust became conditional. Alliances became strategic. Peace depended not on friendship, but on balance. The world learned to live under threat and called it stability. This was the paradox of the post-war era. Never had humanity been more determined to avoid war. Never had it been more capable of destroying itself. World War II also left behind unanswered questions that refused to disappear. Can justice ever equal loss? Can forgiveness exist without truth? Can progress erase responsibility? Each generation answered differently. Some turned memory into activism. Some turned it into denial. Some turned away entirely. Yet the echoes remained. They surfaced during crises, when fear returned and leaders promised certainty. They appeared in language that divided, in slogans that simplified, in movements that demanded loyalty over thought. Those who remembered felt unease. Those who did not felt excitement. History does not repeat itself, precisely, but it does recognize familiar rhythms. The survivors understood this best. Many spent their lives warning quietly, without drama. They did not shout. They remembered. They knew how fast neighbors could turn into enemies, how quickly fear could become policy, how Azali dignity could be traded for belonging. Their greatest fear was not war itself, it was forgetting. World War II was not only a battle of nations, it was a test of humanity, and the results were mixed. The world rebuilt. It learned cooperation. It created laws and institutions meant to prevent another catastrophe. But it also carried forward the same emotions that had once set everything on fire: fear, pride, resentment, ambition. The war ended in 1945. Its consequences did not. They lived on in borders and alliances, in memories and silences, in the choices people made when faced with uncertainty. Part 8 of the story is not about bombs or battles. It is about what remained. Because the true legacy of World War II was not destruction alone, but the fragile understanding that civilization survives only as long as people choose memory over comfort, responsibility over obedience, and humanity over fear. And that choice, history warns us, must be made again and again.